So I was going to say happy Halloween, but then I realized by the time I post this video, it's probably going to be November 1st. So happy November 1st to everyone, and hope that everyone is having an awesome weekend. And that means that we are going to be doing the top 10 video for the month of October and patch 4.4, which I realize is no longer October, but that's because of the stupid dates and when I wanted to get this video out. But I still want to bring this to you guys and talk about who I think have and still do make a very large impact to this game. Since we will be turning the corner and entering patch 4.5 pretty soon, this top 10 list is going to end the patch after having some time to use some of the newer characters this month. Just as a reminder, those who qualify for this top 10 are typically anyone in the A or above category of my tier list that I brought out to you guys last weekend. And I will leave this video in the description below, but I'll quickly bring this up before we get started with the countdown. So without further ado, let's get this video started. Alright, so just to be clear, this is my tier list photo here. Of course, you can find this in the video as well as online. I made this available on Google Docs as well, which you can find in the description as well. So we have here the A. I created a new A+ category last weekend, and the S's. So for this top 10 video, basically anyone in these three categories here are going to be up for grabs in the top 10 list. These are the characters that I think that have made the most impact in the game. The newest characters for this patch has been Scream and Anti-Venom, but whether or not they make the top 10 list, you're going to have to wait and see. So, again, without further ado, let's get this top 10 rolling. And so starting off this list is probably one of the older characters in the game, and that is Carnage. But for what it's worth, his symbiote rework that was done around the time of Symbiote Spider-Man's release really elevated this guy to great heights. And this has been even more evident with patch 4.4 and the release of Scream and Anti-Venom. Obviously, his complete standalone value is not as obviously apparent as it is when he is with the Symbiote team, and that's why he's only at the number 10 spot, but he is without a doubt the next most important member, in my opinion, of the team, next to Symbiote Spider-Man, which I'm sure you can guess is going to be somewhere above this ranking. But why is Carnage on the list? Well, it really comes down to his passive, and I'm not going to go through the entire kit here for everyone, but I want to point this one out in particular, and that's because of the massive turn bar that he shares with the entire Symbiote team when getting enemies into the red zone for HP. Not only does it give speed bar, but it also heals everyone, which was very important prior to Anti-Venom and Scream being released, and it really gave a whooping to the ASGARDIAN team on War Offense, where Carnage would just eat Greg's alive for turn bar, making it easier for the three symbiotes to clear out an entire ASGARDIAN team. Now, they already do that now and even more so, but back then, this was really what helped elevate that. Now, even outside of his own team, he is still usable, just not as amazing, you know, but he can keep himself alive due to this passive decently, and he takes advantage of negative status effects by shifting those negatives around with his basic. And he's also very fast, so he can make use of this quite well. So without a doubt, a must-have if you're building symbiotes for Raids in Dark Dimension. This guy will carry you through DD2 and 3, and probably 4 when it comes out, as long as you have Symbiote Spider-Man as well. A great character and a must-build for the symbiotes, and if you're missing shards for him, he is unfortunately located among the War Store, like quite a few other good required characters, but definitely worth picking up shards there if you need to bring him up to a decent level. Now, Mr. Sinister has held strong at number 9 for the second month in a row. Maybe a bit of a cop-out, but I think he's a steady character. And with Emma Frost round 2, he is still seeing a lot of use in lots of different game modes, even from Arena to Dark Dimension and some raids as well. I personally think Sinister will stand the test of time because of his cloning capabilities, since he can do that on anyone, including newer characters, and be able to bring that character's kit to your side of the field. So for that reason, he is a very strong, future-proofed character. I also want to say that we might see some future use for him in Dark Dimension 4, if we are to believe the part that there could be a global lane without the use of legendaries, which by taking characters like Phoenix out of kind of defuncts Colossus a little bit, and therefore brings at least the combo of Sinister, Strife, and Emma into more prominence in this role as a trifecta team. But we'll have to wait to see when patch 4.5 goes live, where we can actually take a look at that better. Again, not going to go over Sinister's entire kit, as there's a lot of text, but the main reason why he's so awesome is because of his cloning abilities. So we'll start with his ultimate clone. Now, while the ability is on a cooldown of 6, he spawns with 3 ability energy at the start of the fight, making this a turn 1 ability. All of the stats of the clone also scales off of him, so making Sinister as strong as you can get him will benefit the clone as well. Same with res stars. So also by having this ability at level 7, it allows all of the clones to have 7/7/7/5 abilities without having to T4 any of the others, which is really amazing. Now beyond this, Sinister has a lot of healing ability and passive regeneration as well, and a way to distribute this to the other Marauders when they are lower HP. He's got a very well-rounded kit for a mutant villain support character and easily a fan favorite when it comes to this game right now. I don't think he's used so much in Ultimate 7 necessarily, but beyond that I think he is a really great character, and I bet he'll be definitely popping in and out of game modes into the future and will be a great character for quite a while. If you are looking for shards for Sinister, unfortunately, just like Carnage, he is available in the War Store. Definitely someone you want to get as strong as possible. Alright, so my boy Robot Ultron gets a bit of a list downgrade from last month's position of 7. Some people might be surprised at this one, but I'll try to explain why. First off, he is a bit of an older character and has been around for well over a year now, but he is the reward from Dark Dimension 2, and rightly so. He has a very incredible kit, was very well known for being super overpowered at the time, and used in just about every single game mode from arenas to raids, Alliance War, especially in War right now, countering some of the bigger teams, and also finishing off that second run of Dark Dimension 2 if need be. His basic attack is very strong by doing quite a bit of damage and stealing 2 positive effects from the enemy. This can be quite useful in clearing taunts as well, or just taking buffs in general. I won't be talking much about ISO 8 in this video, but I do think that he makes a great striker to follow up attack and stealing even more positive effects on top of his initial hit. But the combination of the rest of his kit is why he's so impressive. His special is a summoning move that triggers up to 3 different minion bots on top of giving himself and the bots 2 turns of defense up. But these bots are just bonkers. Basically, each one of them do different things. The Incinerator, steals buffs and provides offense up. The Accelerator knocks turn bar back on basics and gives speed up to Ultron and the others. And the green guy here, he heals people and clears debuffs off of Ultron. They all do different things when they die, providing Ultron with buffs or turn bar. These bots are also surprisingly strong and hit quite hard. Now, all these buffs end up leading Ultron up to his ultimate Purge system, which is a huge single target attack for a crazy amount of piercing damage, and he gets 1 ability energy per buff he's got on himself, which normally leads to him picking up enough energy up to summon more boss, and then the train continues. And yeah, his passive also allows him to revive once, and he can extend buffs on all villain tech characters, including himself. He's got a really loaded kit, but the reason why he doesn't rank higher is because he can't get red stars. While this wasn't an issue when he was released because he was super powerful, it kind of is a little bit now. I think he's slowly dropping off a little bit, and he is dying a lot quicker in modes like Dark Dimension 3, and even in Arena he finds it hard to sort of stand up against the Black Order and such like that. However, we do have the ISOs. Again, I'm not going to touch on that now, but that does actually boost his stats a little bit. You can get him up to a 10% stat boost via ISOs right now, so that does help him a little bit though. So this time around, Hela is landing herself 2 positions down from where she was last time, being shifted from number 5 to number 7. But hear me out on this. Her kit is really crazy good for a non-legendary to the degree that she probably could have been one. With the exception of very late game Arena, she does hold a place in every other game mode as well. She still holds a strong position in raids, Alliance War, and Dark Dimension, both in 2 and 3, and of course is a required character to unlock Black Bolt, so you're inevitably going to want her up anyways. A lot of her use comes from her passive, which spawns what we know as Greg, the Undead Asgardian, but this isn't all of her tricks, although it is a very good one. So this minion, aka Greg, has some neat tricks that he can apply heal block on his basic, he can blow himself up with his special causing bleeds, but the best part is when he dies, he reduces the speed bar of all enemies by 10%, and he just comes right back to life because Hela keeps resummoning him over and over again. This is great for multiple reasons, but whether it's campaigns or challenges or Dark Dimension or raids, he's often the target by other enemies, whether intentionally or not. This knocks back everyone else's turn bar, so this can happen quite frequently and is really great when it happens. It also heals herself or any other Asgardian when he dies. Now, her ability Death Knives is also quite debilitating, doing a lot of damage by spreading quite a few negative status effects around from the primary target, and with the exception of stun, and giving it to everyone else on the field. I could go on for days and days about Hela, but given she isn't a legendary and used in almost every other game mode, she definitely gets a nod from me. Now, if you need shards for Hela, she can be found in the somewhat newer, although not so new anymore, Villains 7-6 chapter node, which requires villain mystics as well to clear, so not as farmable as some other characters, but she is definitely probably the #1 free-to-play farmable character at this point, but is still slightly behind the others on this list that we're going to get to. But definitely every roster should include a geared up Hela, and you won't regret it at all. Alright, so Phoenix did get a 2-spot decrease as well from last month to this month, and that's because I really think that her overall usage is slowly starting to decline with more power creep, and her potential being phased out of the new Dark Dimension 4. So maybe this is a bit premature, as I know she is still quite strong of a character, but outside of War, I really am not using her as much as I used to. But I can't deny how strong she still is for other players who aren't as far along as me, and obviously why she still makes this top 10 list. Phoenix was the first, and let's hope only character that was a legendary released at a 6-star level. This was different from other previous legendaries, and perhaps for good reason at the time because of how strong she is. But really though, we can talk all about regular Phoenix, but we all know it's about Dark Phoenix, so I'm going to spend a bit more time talking about that. So when she dies, she triggers her second form, Dark Phoenix, which is a summon, but has a kit that's just bonkers off the walls, and was and is to date, I would say, the single strongest kit in the game in terms of raw power. So her Dark Phoenix form is largely why she is so powerful in game modes like Arena, Alliance War, and particularly Dark Dimension, and why she's considered to be a staple and really most necessary character for that game mode. And really, this is because of her special, which she gets to use right out of the gate after dying. And once she gets reborn, this drains 20% health from all enemies and redistributes it to her, on top of applying regeneration to all allies. Now, this is the reason why she is so strong in Dark Dimension 3, for the same reason MINN-ERVA was in Dark Dimension 2 and 3 to some extent, but this is a lot easier to trigger because it can happen every single time Phoenix dies, or every day, or every time you bring her back in Dark Dimension. Without this one ability, I think Dark Dimension 3 would have been made significantly harder, although one might argue if she wasn't there, maybe it wouldn't have been designed the way it was, especially those first 8 nodes, and this was touched on last Strike Time video when they discussed the new Dark Dimension 4, which will be limiting her usage there. Outside of this, though, everything in her kit's really crazy. Her passive triggers an exploding AoE that hits every enemy and gives 2 turns of defense down. This synergizes with her ultimate, which is another crazy AoE that attacks all enemies for tons of damage and clears all positive effects, and it's unavoidable, basically guaranteed to clear all positive effects. Even her basic is incredibly solid, with the splash damage attack that clears 2 positive effects on each target. I'm not going to go back into the rest of regular Phoenix's kit, but feel free to go back over it on your own time. But I still think to date, Phoenix and Dark Phoenix is one of the most bonkers kit creations to ever come to this game so far. The reason why she isn't higher than this to me is largely because of her lack of usages in raids compared to the ones above her, as they tick off the rest of those boxes. Now, if you need to obtain Phoenix still, you can do so by farming up Villain Mystic Controllers for her event, which is only 6 different characters that include Mordo, Hela, Ronin, Nobu, Loki, and Hand Assassin to the 6-star level. So if you don't have her, then make sure you work towards unlocking her, as she is still quite the powerhouse despite the power creep on her. And coming in at number 5, one above last month, is Thanos. Now, I do want to say this is taking into consideration both his regular and his empowered form. I'm not going to do a rundown of everything he has to offer, but between both forms, he is an amazing character. And frankly, the reason why he probably isn't higher is because of requiring the rest of the Black Order, including Ebony Maw, to achieve his final form. Thanos has been a common raid staple since his inception because of his passive Titan Eternal, which grants ability energy to adjacent cosmic characters on death here. And I believe he was one of the few characters in the game upon release that had a 2-turn taunt on his special. He is an all-around beastly character that can stand his ground and was just made even better during the Black Order patch where he was given his empowered form. So if you don't know the power of empowered Thanos, just watch any of the videos on the Black Order, or basically he is the destroyer of worlds in Marvel Strike Force at this point in empowered form. Black Order with Thanos dominates the arena and most game modes with the exception of raids due to the lack of long-term sustainability with the full team. His kit is supercharged with an incredibly basic attack here, does tons of damage and bleed. His special being able to flip all negative and positive effects on both sides of the field permanently. Permanently lowering damage and armor for all enemies, and a crazy AoE nuke on his ultimate that deals a ton of damage. But like I said, the reason why he is ranked where he is largely due to the fact that he needs the other 4 to give him the Infinity Stones to obtain this form, and not everyone in the game is going to be able to unlock this until they have the rest of the Black Order, who are slowly becoming farmable, with, as of this video, Cull Obsidian the only one not to have a place farmable yet. Still though, he is an amazing character, despite being one of the older ones on the list, and even predating ULTRON's release. But the patch really brought him around and landed him on this top 10 list again. If you are looking to farm Thanos shards, he is a bit of a late game farm now, unfortunately for newer players, sitting at Nexus 8-9, which is a bit of a more difficult node. But you can get him here if you're needing to farm more shards for him. Okay, so this month, Emma Frost got a massive improvement by me. From a position of 8 from last month to number 4 this month. And that's both because of how much more I've been using her and testing her out, but also what more she can do lately. She makes some considerable contribution to arena game mode, being able to take down the Black Order in various team compositions from Marauders to Symbiotes with her, and that alone is nice. She is also useful in all raids where she can be used, with her passive giving permanent speed down to everyone, and some have even used her out in Dark Dimension 3, the global lane, as a support character in that regard. She is a great support controller type for many of these game modes due to her self-sustain. Definitely one to watch and keep an eye out in the future as the game progresses to see what more use she might get, both with her team and as a standalone character. On top of this, her cooldowns on her special and ultimate are quite short at about 3 and 4 respectively. Starting with Diamond form, she is basically able to clear all negative status effects from herself and all allies while slowing the enemy team, and applying immunity to herself and other mutant villain allies, which is great if you're using a Marauders raid team or Dark Dimension 3 global and stacking up mutant villains. I think she's going to have strong potential also going into Dark Dimension 4, being a non-legendary character. Her ultimate is a combination of Loki's mind control with the ability to blind and clear positive effects, so she does clear all positive effects from enemies and can mind control up to 2 other characters, both either enemies or allies, to deal additional damage. And if that person dies, then it applies blind to another character. Overall, she plays her control tag very well and adds a lot to the team with regard to positive and negative effects, and that permanent speed decrease. As of this video, her second milestone is in progress, but there likely will be a third one coming in the not so distant future, so save up that gold, as that's largely the primary way to get through the milestones and get more shards for her. And here we are in the top 3 with Black Bolt, the King of Attilan, who has maintained his position for 2 months in a row and still is a very meta-defining character in Marvel Strike Force. That being said, he is an incredibly strong standalone character in every single game mode because of his kit, and he is required to unlock Ebony Maw. Black Bolt originally came out at a time where ULTRON was dominating the arena, and he came in and basically stole this from him through his passive, which basically made it so he can't revive upon death, and this is the same for any character that he kills. Not only that, but his passive gives him what people call the burp, and whenever an enemy drops below 25% health, he hits them for additional damage, which is then doubled against villain tech enemies. This is awesome in raids. Just seeing him smack down lots of low HP enemies. He also applies Disrupted to any character that can summon and strip their buffs, which was amazing, an amazing FU to ULTRON at the time, but is still quite usable even to this day to other enemies such as Doc Ock, and I imagine he'll continue to be good well into the future. Other than that, I would say his kit is fairly straightforward, but the damage numbers are just incredibly high. His ultimate does a crazy amount of AoE damage, which has really high percentages, higher than any other character to date. His special does a single target high-powered attack here, which is actually unavoidable as well. And his basic is actually quite effective because he can flip his own negative effects if the enemy has slow, and also clears positive effects on his basic as well. This actually works really great with the Striker ISO class, as he can sometimes even triple attack if you can knock someone into low enough HP to trigger his passive burp. It is really amazing to see. In order to unlock this bad boy, you do need a full entourage of the ASGARDIANs at 5-star and above, but he is also used to unlock Ebony Maw, as I mentioned, making him useful for multiple reasons. Definitely a character you should work to unlock if you don't have him, and likely will continue to be a very strong character for quite some time to come. And unfortunately, losing the crown from the previous #1 last month is Ebony Maw, being shifted ever so slightly into the #2 position. I think he definitely has made his mark on this game with not only his general kit, but his ability to create empowered Thanos, so he's getting points for both of these reasons. Now, Ebony Maw has uses in Arena, Raids, Alliance War, and Dark Dimension, so he ticks off all of those boxes for me in terms of overall game usage. He is also one of these characters that I would deem as a kit character who you don't necessarily have to have at high star level for crazy value. Obviously, though, he does unlock at a 5-star level. But of course, if you want to take him into Dark Dimension 2 or 3, then you're going to need him at tier 13 and above for that. He plays the support role really well with his special, as it's a combination of Shuri's special and Invisible Woman's ultimate minus the barrier. So applying defense up for 2 turns to all allies, and then offense down to all enemies for 2 turns. There is counter-related stuff on here, but really it's for the other parts. Now, his ultimate Force Transfusion is also taking MINN-ERVA's kit, but also making it even better. So it drains 3% health from all enemies 4 additional times, for a total of 15%, and redistributing that to allies. Also applies slow to all enemies for 2 turns, which is crazy both in Raids and Dark Dimension. And also, if you're using him with the Black Order, it reduces speed bar from enemies by 5% per member, and raises his and the Black Order's turn bar as well by 5% as well per member. His his passive is what makes him super great in Raids at the moment. Beyond the stones that he gives to Thanos, which triggers the empowered form, he also, like I mentioned previously, it really comes down to the text near the bottom, I think. Here, he has a lot of text here on his passive. Here we go, down here. So it talks about the charge part. So on death of enemy hero controller, gain charge, apply immunity to all enemies, and barrier all allies for 20% of this character's max health. Now, this charge then applies ability block to all other hero controllers. This part is largely designed to counter Phoenix in Arena for the most part, although it can be used in some instances in Raids too. The barrier part is quite handy when you're going through lanes that contain these hero controllers, making it a lot easier to clear on the Raids. All in all, he is an amazing character, with an amazing kit, lumping in characters like Shuri, Invisible Woman, and MINN-ERVA all into one person. He has standalone value on top of value with the Black Order, the current strongest team in the game in my opinion. And where can you find him? Well, he is a legendary character, but you do need Black Bolt and 4 other Inhumans to unlock him at the 5-star level. With the next expected date, I think sometime around the end of December or so. This is important to mention because you do have to use Black Bolt for this event, and this was the first legendary within a legendary unlock. And I really quickly just wanted to give some shoutouts to some honorable mentions here really quick. And you guys might have noticed this from the list being missing. Now, MINN-ERVA is the first honorable mention. She was previously number 10 in last month's video. She has slowly slid off the list though. While she is a really great character and definitely, you know, amazing, and if you do end up unlocking her, it's great to bring her up, and you're going to need her probably for Dark Dimension 4. I think overall that with the release of newer characters, she is not as widely necessary to use outside of Dark Dimension. You don't have to use her in Raids anymore, although she is still really great and she provides a lot of use there. But the fact that she's not really farmable outside of the premium morph kind of makes her struggle a little bit. Now, I know she is like what I would call a kit character. You don't really need to have her at high star levels to make her effective, though I think her survivability kind of starts lacking if you don't have those extra hit points and things. So she's hard to survive through game modes like Dark Dimension 3 and definitely going into Dark Dimension Dimension 4 if you only have her at, let's say, 3 or 4 stars, depending on where you're at in the game. So, you know, despite how long she's been in the game, I don't have her maxed out. And I've never bought an offer, though, for her either. But she still is really great to use. She has a revive and health steal mechanic. That's largely why she's so great in Dark Dimension and why she'll continue to be that way. And she's non-legendary. So, yeah, great character to have. Unfortunately, didn't make the top 10 this time. Now, another character I want to mention. Character from this patch, Anti-Venom. Really great and amazing character for a lot of the same reasons that MINN-ERVA is. He is a support character as well and really helps elevate that symbiote team even further. Now, some might argue he's not completely necessary because the symbiotes are also really self-sufficient already, and so he sort of just like makes that self-sufficiency even better. Now, with the inclusion of Anti-Venom, I have seen videos of arena battles with the symbiotes minus Carnage, with Emma Frost and Doc Ock to beat Black Order, so he does provide inclusion there to allow that kind of thing. But overall, I don't think he's quite there yet in the top 10. I think he's, like, for me, like 11, 12. He's really close to that top 10 list, but currently isn't there yet. But I did want to point this out to you guys because I think he's still an amazing character, and you know, clearly I have him at tier 14 and I think he's great too. So if you have him and you've been working hard on this Anti-Venom event, then I think that you should be doing the same as well. Alright, so this might not be super surprising. Taking the crown twice in 3 months, swinging back into the #1 position is Symbiote Spider-Man. Honestly, I think Symbiote Spider-Man has probably one of the best non-legendary kits and is an incredibly strong standalone character in his own right. But aside from this, the Symbiotes team are now complete as of this video with the release of Scream and Anti-Venom, which means that Symbiote Peter becomes even more necessary and required to bring this full team together to make use of things like his Drain passive, which stems from him. He is kind of like OG Spider-Man, but on steroids really, since he does everything he can do, but 10 times better. Now, his basic is essentially OG Spider-Man's special, but applying defense down for 2 turns to everyone that he hits, and it can't be counterattacked. His special attack attacks the primary target and adjacent targets for damage, applies bleed, and extends all existing negatives for an additional turn, which depending on who he's teamed up with, usually the symbiotes, but he can be used elsewhere, it can be really crippling. And his ultimate web slam is some pretty good damage, hitting all targets, applying stun to the primary, and 2 turn slow on everyone else. It's also unavoidable, which is great for targeting those pesky dodger types. His passive is why he's so bonkers in Raids in Dark Dimension, though. With the other symbiotes, which gives them all 100% drain in these game modes here. On top of this, they all heal up every time a negative status effect is applied here by 3% of this character's max hit points, which can be pretty crazy. And he boosts all symbiote and Hero Spider-Verse characters by 30% max health. The drain, though, really cannot be understated, given how much damage the symbiotes can do. This stacks up like crazy, and they can basically full heal themselves off in one move. Without a doubt, one of the more bonkers additions to Marvel Strike Force, and this is going to make symbiotes one of the best raid teams for some time to come, unless they release new raids that somehow restrict their usage in some way, but otherwise I see this being the best possible raid team to use as of making this video. Now, unfortunately, where can you get him? Well, he is currently in the milestone orbs, which doesn't have great odds. And if you missed out on all 3 of his milestones in the past, then it's going to either take some good luck, lots of patience, or some money to unlock this guy faster. But I can without a doubt say that he is a crazy character, and I highly recommend maxing this guy out when you get him. You won't regret it at all, unless you're watching this in a year's time. But honestly, I see him being strong well into the future, and who knows if they'll make any future additions down the line to the team. And that's the end of my list. Now, I do want to apologize that there wasn't any real new character additions to the list, just characters that were kind of moved around a bit with the exception of Carnage at number 10. But personally, I don't think Scream or Anti-Venom still for me bumps anyone out of that top 10 position despite how amazing they are, as I think Carnage is still a better member for that team due to his passive and what it provides for them. I don't think Doc Ock has made enough impact at this stage to get on the top 10 list either, but that will be subject to change in the future. If anything, I do strongly believe that next patch's top 10 list will bump a few characters off as we introduce the likes of Dr. Doom, and who knows, maybe the new Pimtech characters might have what it takes to power creep some of these strong contenders out. Now, if you feel I missed something or you felt that some characters should have been placed differently, feel free to leave that in the comments below. I'm more than happy to engage in some civil debate and discussion on the characters. Or, of course, if you want to join in the conversation, then please feel free to join my Discord channel, which you can find in the video description below as well. And I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on everything. But that's all for today's video, and if you guys enjoyed it, then please smash that like button down below, and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already to see more videos like this. And of course, till next time guys, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Boylon signing out.